Okay, gang, this quick video here is going to show you how to structure counterargument paragraphs in your research paper. Now, basically, gang, counterarguments are claims that you could think of from the opposing side of view that would give counterarguments or opposing points of view towards your particular thesis statement. So it's anything that you could think of that somebody would say to you in a particular debate that was disagreeing with your particular position over this issue. Okay? So with that said, what you need to do to make yourself even more credible is, as it mentions here, either cite an actual source, maybe think about a reason why somebody would disagree with you, and raise up that particular argument or counter argument in that particular section of your paper. If you do this, it's going to make you more credible to the reader itself because it's you anticipating objections from the other side or from the other point of view, and then you overcoming them, acknowledging that there is another side to the issue, but then answering those other sides of the issue, so to speak, with your own research and with your own logic. It makes you appear to be more credible, so that way you're not totally and completely one-sided in your particular paper. Okay. Actually, the structure of it's relatively easy. It's just the execution of the counter-argument paragraph. The more you work on them, the better you'll get at them. Okay, so I have some steps here for you. Okay, if you look at it, we have steps to structure your counter-arguments and your paragraphs. You basically have four main steps right here. They're formatted a little differently from your CSET process, similar yet different. If you follow this, though, you'll be perfectly fine to get, you'll be perfectly fine in giving nice, fundamentally sound counterargument paragraphs, okay? So, step number one, you're going to introduce yourself with an introductory phrase that follows one of these main phrases here at the beginning of your particular paragraph, okay? After you introduce those particular phrases, or one of those particular phrases, then, step number two, you introduce an argument that would be made against your particular thesis. Okay, now this is actually coming from your counter-argument research that I had you guys look up. Remember, I had you guys look up 10 pieces of information that would counter your particular thesis. This is where you begin to use that information. You can even paraphrase that information. Okay. But with that said, be clear and be concise. Do not elaborate on it. With that said, once you do that, you're going to return to your own argument, okay? And then you are going to oppose or respond to the counter argument, and do so with a particular coordinated conjunction or a conjunction, and then from there move on and respond to your own opposing, or excuse me, not your own, but respond to the opposing argument. Show why it's mistaken and not a real problem. Big thing here, guys, is use your evidence to overturn it. Elaborate and clarify your position and research. Guys, this is the most important part of the paragraph. And then from there, you provide a transition sentence that moves on to your next particular point. So you introduce, to review, you introduce your paragraph with one of these main phrases. From there, you introduce the counter argument. You got that from your particular research. Again, be clear and concise. Then you respond to that counter argument, provide a conjunction, and then from there, respond to the opposing argument, showing why you believe that it is mistaken. Use your own evidence to overturn it. Elaborate and clarify. Explain to me basically why you believe that counter argument is not legitimate. And then from there, provide a transition sentence that moves on to the next point. So with that said, let's go down here and look at a particular example. Okay, I'm going to click on the comments right here. We're going to be good to go. The thesis for this particular example is the following. The benefits of online monitoring in the workforce are outweighed by the costs to employees' privacy and autonomy. So basically what they're saying is, yes, while there may be some benefits to online monitoring in the workforce, guess what? Your privacy and your autonomy is more important, and those benefits are going to be outweighed by privacy issues, by independence issues, etc. So basically what this thesis statement is saying is that ultimately online monitoring in the workforce is not the way to go, so to speak. Okay, so with that said, let's look at this particular paragraph itself. We first start off with the introductory phrase that I told you about, or one of the phrases you could use. So it says the following: on the one hand, and from here, after that, it gets into the counterargument. I'll just go ahead and read it for you. On the one hand, computers and internet access give employees powerful tools to carry out their jobs. Now here's the counterargument. On the other hand, the same technology offers constant temptations to avoid work. From there, they're given evidence that goes along with this particular counterargument, telling you essentially that, you know what, some people think that you need online monitoring out there in order to keep people on the straight and narrow, so to speak. So they give the counterargument right here, and then from there they give evidence to go along with that counterargument. Note the signal phrase that they give as well. As a 2005 study by Salary.com and America Online indicates, the internet ranked as the top choice among employees for ways of wasting time on the job and beat talking with coworkers, the second most popular method by a margin of nearly 2 to 1. So with that said, at this particular point in time, what they're saying is, well, you know, there are going to be people out there that say online monitoring in the workforce is needed because basically people are being bums and they're just surfing the internet while they're making 6 figures a year. Okay, a legitimate counter-argument. Okay, with that said though, at this particular point in time, the writer of this particular paper refutes, opposes that counter-argument, and they do so with their own particular arguments. And they turn that argument, we call it a turn in the debate world also. You turn their particular argument in your favor, so that way you can ultimately support your thesis. So this is easy to explain, but it's a bit of a skill that you're going to have to work on. Okay, so what they say, or what he or she says here, the writer, is the following. But monitoring online activities can have the unintended effect of making employees resentful. As many workers would be quick to point out, web surfing and other personal uses of the internet can provide needed outlets in the stressful work environment. Many scholars have argued that limiting and policing these outlets can exacerbate tensions between employees and managers. So basically, at this particular point in time, this writer refuted this counter-argument up here by giving his or her own thoughtful analysis that was based off of their own research, saying that, you know what, if employees feel like they're being monitored by management, monitored by the IT Nazis, being monitored by their bosses, etc., that is going to make them even more counterproductive because they're going to feel like they are in a stressful work environment and that there's going to be this incredible amount of tension that's going to be built between employers and managers. So if anything, online monitoring is going to have an adverse effect. It's going to make company relations and interpersonal relations, not interpersonal, but you could say intrapersonal relations within the company extremely tense and counterproductive. Now, how do they know this? Well, they gave evidence. So this is where it's key, where if you have some key evidence that you've left over in your own particular research that could go along here in your counter-argument paragraphs, it'll help you out tremendously. Because not only are you responding to the counter-argument right here, you're giving me thoughtful analysis, but now you're giving evidence to support that. Where are you getting it from exactly? And here we get evidence to support this particular writer's response to the counter-argument. Kessler warns that prohibiting personal use can seem extremely arbitrary and can seriously harm morale. Imagine a concerned parent who is prohibited from checking on a sick child by a draconian company policy. Okay, so with that said, this is evidence supporting their response to the counter-argument. Okay, and then from there, they quickly clarify that particular evidence somewhat, they wrap it up, and they move on to the next counter-argument. And they say the following. As this analysis indicates, employees can become disgruntled when internet usage policies are, good grief, it's late at night. Let me say that again. As this analysis indicates, employees can become disgruntled when internet usage policies are enforced to their full extent. So again, with counter-argument paragraphs, you can see the structure, the basics are there. You just need to work on them. You need to practice on them, and that's what your rough draft's for. So again, you started off with an introductory phrase. From there, you give the counter argument that you got from your particular research. You would paraphrase the research in your particular paragraph, so that way that's your first statement. And then you give the evidence that goes along with the counter argument. That's the actual evidence that you got from your research. From there, this is you being the stud researcher and stud arguer you are now, using logos, pathos, and ethos. Essentially, you are responding to that counter argument with your own awesome analysis, and then you give evidence from your research that supports your opinion that goes along with your analysis. And last but not least, you expand on it somewhat, you wrap it up, and you move on to your next particular counter argument. I would suggest in your paper having at least 3 counter arguments in this particular section, 3 to 5 max. I know it said 2 to 3 up at the top of the particular page, but I would say for this particular paper, since you guys are advanced and I'm moving you on past what we did last year, if you could do 3 to 5 counter arguments, that would be awesome. Okay, so that's it for how to structure a counter argument paragraph in your particular research paper. Hang in there, guys. You're almost through with this particular process. I'm very proud of you.